So hello and welcome to this latest edition of the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. Have these meetings every Sunday evening, and this is March 21st, 2021. We talk about whatever crops up that people want to talk about. So cryptocurrencies, exchanges, whatever's happening in the DeFi space. NFTs are really growing at the moment, so I'm sure we'll be talking about those. And anything else. It's open to new people or visitors, people who are experts, people who are novices. The whole idea is to build up the community and learn and share with each other. So I hope you find that of interest. If you'd like to subscribe, do remember to click on that subscribe button, click on the like button, or do whatever else it is YouTubers do. So let's see who's going to join us today.
Hello, Gary.
Hey, Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm very well. Hi, Patrick. Sorry, let me go. My wife has got another Zoom session, so I probably need to leave the video off. Otherwise it crashes.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, John. How's it going?
Good.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Gary. Good to see you.
Hey,
Hello,
the other
John.
Chris. Hello. Two Chris's and a John. We need to build up the John community a little bit more.
Yeah. Feeling isolated.
So what's new, folks? Anything interesting happening at the moment, do you think?
I got into BlockFi, but apart from that, no, not really.
So tell us more. What is BlockFi and what have you got into, Chris?
Okay. Well, I was looking after our last call. I finally restored a couple of wallets, and I watched this video. I think I posted this on the group, not the link. There was a very good interview with Real Vision and Zach Prince, the founder of BlockFi. And he was talking about the concepts that they're lending, I think, to institutions and personal investors.
Okay.
And that you can literally also, which I think is very good, where they say that you can, if you, let's say you've got 2 Bitcoin, but you need cash, but you don't want to sell the Bitcoin, they take your Bitcoin as collateral and give you a loan in fiat without you having to surrender your cryptocurrency, which is quite interesting.
Okay.
So I put a bit of money into BlockFi and I started to earn cumulative interest. And I think it's quite interesting. And I know that many people say this as well, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, etc. So I decided to give it a go. I used Binance before, but you know, the API is like 1.2%. And BlockFi currently offers 6%.
Okay.
I've accumulated quite I would say quite a nice amount of interest already. And from a security point of view, they're quite good as well. Obviously, I set up the Google Authenticator, and what they allow you as well. I've set up that if somebody would, or that I only can withdraw my amount to a specified address. So you can say, no, if somebody logs on, you only can withdraw to this address. And if you want to change it, you need the Google Authenticator code to make that change.
Okay. And what is the address? Is that a wallet address or an IP address?
No, it's a wallet address.
Okay.
So you can say, I used my SegWit Bitcoin address. So anyone who would gain access could only withdraw to my Bitcoin wallet address. And if you want to change it, it would ask for the Google Authenticator code, which obviously only I have. So that's actually not too bad. Okay. And as far as I understand, they hold it in cold storage. So it's not a hot wallet. It sounds very interesting. And there was a very good YouTube video from Real Vision, Raoul Pal, I think, was the interview. It's around 57 minutes long, I think. It was a really interesting conversation, and I decided to invest a little bit of crypto in there just to get something out of it rather than just hodl. And then it goes up and down. I just wanted to get a bit of a return and check it out. And so far, I have to say it's good. The security sounds really good. I use it on my phone, so obviously I've got biometrics set up. If for some reason that fails, I need to log on with username, password, and Google Authenticator. So I think it's really secure. I wouldn't put all my holdings in there, admittedly, but I think it's a very good product, and it makes sense. Now you can do Gemini dollar, Tether, a Binance dollar, Litecoin, Bitcoin link, a chain link, sorry.
Okay.
I just have Bitcoin and Litecoin. And yeah, so far, I have to be honest, after what I've read and seen on the YouTube video, I can recommend BlockFi. Maybe allocate a bit of your portfolio, maybe 5-10% to start with. But it sounds like a very good concept.
So if I kind of play that back to make sure I understand it, it's effectively yield farming by offering you interest on the crypto that you provide as collateral.
Not only this, so basically, let's say you put 10,000 pounds into BlockFi. BlockFi offers then loans to other people at a much higher rate. That could be institutions or institutional investors or personal investors, and they charge them, I don't know how many percent. I haven't checked how much it is. So this is how they basically generate the interest for you as a lender.
Okay, so it's kind of similar to, there are some projects in the UK which are fiat based, which are where you put in money that can then be consolidated to give loans. I've forgotten the ones who are the really big space, but it's kind of crowdfunding where it's community based, where you all put some money in and then it's loaned to a business or something. So it's like that, but for crypto. Okay, that's really
sounds like peer-to-peer lending.
Yeah, funding circle.
Yeah,
funding
exactly.
circle. That was it. I was thinking of. Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that, then, Chris.
Yeah, of course, sure.
Yeah, I see we've been joined by Bill, who's got a particularly lovely office there this evening.
Yeah, I was just admiring your raging fire in the background, Bill.
It's where we get to say the magic words. Yeah, it's where we get to say the magic words. Bill, you're on mute. which he does, of course, know.
I do know. It's nice to meet you all, guys. I haven't been here since the actual physical days, so I'm well behind all you chaps. I used to meet Gary in Milo, didn't I, Gary? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we still bump into each other virtually sometimes, I think.
Yeah, you rescue me on Facebook now and again, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's the thing that I find that it's great the way that everyone stalks each other on social media these days. So it's pretty good. Well, thanks for coming along, Bill. As always, no particular format on these kind of sessions. We just end up talking about whatever, really. So Chris was just describing about his experiences with BlockFi and the yield farming on that, which is really good. I know, Mark, you're getting more and more into the NFT space at the moment, aren't you?
Just been doing a little bit of reading about that, but don't really know that much about it. So can't really call myself an expert or talk knowledgeably about them yet.
That's a shame, because I need to speak to some experts.
All right. Well, I'll let you know my day rate, then I'll become an expert.
I just jump in quickly, Gary, because I did hear the last conversation about, I think it was peer-to-peer lending.
Yep.
I did hear a story about a friend of mine who put 600K or more, I think 1.2 million in Bitcoin into a lending platform of this nature. And he actually lost his money because Bitcoin corrected and went down 50%. And in the small print, which he hadn't read, it says if it goes down to 50%, they can take ownership of the Bitcoin.
Okay.
Now, that's the first I've heard about anything like this, so that I don't remember the name of the company, and it might have been a bit dodgy one, but I have been assured it was legit. But he didn't realize that if it did, lose its asset value by 50%, they can take ownership, and he lost a whole lot.
So I think what it may relate to, because I've seen this happen with a couple of things where you're providing your crypto as collateral, is that there are thresholds. It's like with the fiat world, where there's thresholds of how much collateral you need to hold in reserve.
Oh, yeah.
Like you end up with like a margin call type thing if you go beyond a certain limit. And I saw it happen the other week with Ethereum, where that had a sudden dip, and a load of people had contracts that suddenly were expired or whatever because the collateralization rules canned out, and they hadn't realized, and basically the market shorted them out type thing. So I think with all of this, even if it is a legit firm, you're right, you do need to really read the small print. Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard that, so I just want to mention it now because it's kind of made sense in the context of the conversation. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, it's like people keep saying, do your own research, but we don't really tell people what they need to research or how. But I think that's a really good point. Thanks, Bill.
It's quite interesting since you're talking about BlockFi. There were quite a few videos on YouTube that were recommended to me recently about getting passive income from the crypto, and so there are various platforms that were kind of suggested that were good ones to use, like crypto.com and various others, but I don't really know much about them. But I have looked quite a bit into the Swissborg platform, where you can stake your Ethereum, CHSB tokens and USDC tokens as well. But I've not heard of kind of, if it does drop by a certain percentage, then you would effectively be liquidated.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with any of these, that there are risks of that. I mean, Swissborg, I know the couple of people. I know Alex Faisal, I think, who looks after the European type business, and he was great when he moved to the UK from Hong Kong, or Tokyo, sorry, because he was really into building the community, and so he'd be out there speaking and everything, and they're a good bunch. But even with that, it's quite possible that there'll be rules tucked away there that say if certain things happen, that then you're expired. So yeah, a good point. And it's interesting as well, talking of rules and all this kind of stuff, this is where NFTs I find fascinating right now. So I don't know if everyone's watching the non-fungible token space.
I started to hear about it, actually. I mean, it's a new one on me, but carry on, please.
Yeah, but yeah, it's this whole idea that you've got a token that represents ownership of something else. So it's kind of like a share certificate in a way, but it's for the 21st century. There's a massive growth, particularly in crypto art in the space at the moment. So a guy who's known as Beeple sold through auction a couple of weeks ago a piece of art which raised in total over $69 million. I think 9 million of it was in commissions and fees. And it was a collection of all of his previous digital art, all merged into a single piece of digital art. So it's quite impressive, like a collage or whatever. And he raised a phenomenal amount. But I've been getting interested in this space, and I did the 5-minute explainer video, and that spurred off loads of people getting in touch and that. And it's like the ICO craze. It's amazing how many people are already into it, are already putting money into it, and already clearly don't understand how it actually works. So
more about the money than the art, isn't it?
Well, this is the chasing the money, because there's lots of profits to be made, but they don't actually understand how it's all working. So it's an interesting.
Or what's the value going to be in time to come? Like, are people really going to want to have something stored on the blockchain and say, yes, you own it, but nothing to really show?
Well, at the moment, I describe it like Pokemon cards, that it doesn't really matter. As long as there's enough people out there who like them, who are willing to trade in them, who are willing to play with them, that they're going to have a value. So see, we've got Don's just joined us. Hey, Don.
Oh, hi.
Welcome to the group.
Great, hi. Yeah, thanks.
So I didn't realise, whereabouts are you based on?
Isle of Man.
Okay.
We're on the Isle of Man Telegram, the Isle of Man Crypto Club.
Ah, yes, okay. Yeah. So it's a small world, because I've been speaking to a couple of people in the Isle of Man over the last few weeks around crypto regulation and looking at what the FSA is doing in that space. So I guess you'll...
Probably nothing.
Isn't there a sandbox between the Isle of Man and the UK FCA?
Yeah. Well, the FSA, which is the Isle of Man FCA equivalent. They are doing a sandbox type thing, and they're doing an innovation type thing, but it's not part of the FCA sandbox.
Yeah.
It's definitely. But if I was thinking, I mean, Malaysia, Singapore, a number of other regulators are doing exactly the same with their sandboxes. So yeah. So what's going on in the Isle of Man of interest then, Don? Maybe you can share with us here, because most of us are on mainland or Europe.
I didn't get the question.
So what's happening of interest in the crypto space in the Isle of Man at the moment?
Not a hell of a lot. I've got to be honest. I think the most exciting thing. So we're back in a lockdown. We had no lockdown for 6 months, and now we've been in a lockdown for about 2-3 weeks. And it looks like it's going to go on until the end of March, which is a bit annoying. I think the most exciting thing that's happened is there's that exchange, I can't remember what it's called, Cryptocurrencies or something like that. It's a UK, it's been around for quite a while. They just moved here. And that's about the most exciting thing that I think has happened. Basically not a hell of a lot. That's the and Simon Dixon lives here.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. How is that recent?
And me, of course.
Of course. How long has he lived there for? Is it recent or long time?
4 or 5 years.
Okay, yeah.
4, I think in May it's 5. Or in May it's 4, something like that. Lost track.
Okay, interesting.
The thing, I think the whole crypto world is so small, and then once you start looking at the populations on islands like Malta, Gibraltar, and Isle of Man, everyone knows each other. So very small indeed.
Yeah.
There's a project many years ago. I mean, it must have been 2012 or around that time, maybe earlier. And I had 3 friends of mine were pulling the resources, and we're working with Simon Dixon at the time, Bank to the Future, with the idea of pulling ATMs onto the UK high streets and in the major cities. But unfortunately, the 3 guys couldn't work together, so it all tits up. We've got our money back and things, but it's a shame because that would be quite ahead of its time back then, back in those days. And I didn't even know what Bitcoin was back then. I was a complete novice, really. But interesting. It's a small world at the end of the day, isn't it?
Well, I know that crypto ATMs were things that I could never quite get my head around the need for them, because it seemed quite strange that you were suddenly converting effectively something physical from your crypto or whatever. And then all of a sudden there was the announcement a couple of months ago where there's been a deal with one of the big ATM providers in the UK. So you can now buy Bitcoin in about 16,000 ATMs around the UK, I think now, which has been quite significant. Because up till now, I think there's been 100 or so, most of which were in London. And I know I'd sometimes use, there was a website which gave you a map of where all the ATMs were that did crypto in the UK. And occasionally when I was in the city, I'd go and hunt one down to find out where it was so I could take a photo of it or whatever. And invariably I'd get there and it disappeared. And it was always out of date. I eventually found one in Google Campus. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. Took a photo of it, went to actually try it, and it said out of order.
So on the island, we have our own currency. We have it's the Isle of Man pound. And so when I first came here, I was quite astonished because it's 100% convertible into the British pound. And for some reason, I thought that they had to have some deposit at the Bank of England or something like that. So if I've got Isle of Man pounds, I can come across to, we don't call it the mainland, okay? You guys are not the mainland, you're the other island, just mentioning. So if I come over to the UK, to the other island, I go to NatWest, I can give them my Isle of Man pounds and they'll give me British pounds. And so when I heard this, I thought there must be some backing from the Bank of England, and there's absolutely none. They can literally print as many of those things as they like, and they are 100% exchangeable for normal pounds. Now, I mean, obviously, before they managed to sort of print 1 trillion, presumably the British government would figure it out and do something. So I don't think it represents a big threat to the pound. But kind of occurred to me, and I went to them, and I went to the government here, and I proposed to them. I said, look, why don't you guys sort of stand between people who want to spend Bitcoin on the island? So you give everyone, all the merchants on the island, like an app, and say, if you spend Bitcoin, basically the government will take the Bitcoin and then just deposit pounds into the merchant's account, right? And so then the merchant is just selling in pounds. He doesn't have any Bitcoin risk. And then I said to him, and slowly but surely you'll build up Bitcoin. And when you've got a lot of them, it's valuable to try and sell them, because if you've got like 1,000 Bitcoin, it's a lot easier to go and sell that to an institution, especially since you're a government, right? It's like, it's just a lot easier, and you can go and hedge it and all of that kind of thing. It was I was speaking to the deputy treasurer. I mean, he's such a sweet guy. He's a Scottish guy, and he just looked at me and he went, there is no way in hell they will ever do that. It was just like, that'll never happen. I just said, oh, great, thanks. It's like, yeah, I was like, I was just quite surprised, because in 2013, they had a thing on the island called, it was a conference, and they called it Crypto Island or Crypto something. And so they had Simon Dixon, they had what's that guy's name? The actor who lives in Puerto Rico. Oh man, what's his name? He was involved with EOS, and I think he was in the Mighty Ducks or something when he was a youngster. He was a child actor.
Okay.
Because you'll know the guy I mean. Anybody, can't remember the name, but he was here. They had Roger Ver. I mean, they had that other guy who did Grin. Oh God, I can't remember his name. They had all the sort of old Bitcoin guys here.
Okay.
And they published a thing. They were going to accept taxes in Bitcoin, and the entire island was going to go Bitcoin. And then something happened. And it's mysterious to me because I can't get to the bottom of it. I've sort of tracked the one person, but somebody came in on the second day of the conference and said that their bank account, which was Lloyd's, was closed because they did a Bitcoin transfer, or they transferred money to a Bitcoin exchange or something. And that put a dampener on the conference. And then the whole thing just sort of died. And the guy from the government who said that they would accept Bitcoin for taxes sort of got fired, and the thing on the internet disappeared. I think you can still find it in the Wayback Machine. And when I talk to people here, the only thing I can get is that they were told by the Bank of England that this would never happen. Okay. Which for the life of me, I think is bullshit. I really do. I just don't buy that at all.
Well, so, it is a little bit odd, because I remember I was at a conference where there was somebody from, I think it was from the Isle of Man FSA, who was basically trying to do a sales pitch on how you move your business to the Isle of Man. We're crypto friendly, we're very supportive in that. And they were writing some quite interesting papers for a while. And then I asked the question of, oh, okay, so if I locate a crypto business in the Isle of Man, can I set up a bank account?
Yeah.
And he was open and honest, and he said, well, not yet. He said, we're gradually moving the dial, I think he described on that, which basically meant no.
Well, I mean, simply put, it's a big problem because we have no local bank. We have one, which is called Conister. But otherwise, every single bank on the island is, so Isle of Man Bank is owned by Royal Bank of Scotland, who's in turn owned by NatWest, right? So there's no bank on the island which is not, it's HSBC or Lloyd's, or there's no local bank, basically. They're all British banks. So
but it's interesting.
It makes no difference.
But you mentioned RBS, because you're saying about how it is that you can use Isle of Man pounds to swap for English pounds. It's the same with Scottish banknotes.
Yes.
Scottish banknotes.
And I think there's a Northern Ireland pound as well.
And what's really interesting with all of them is how often it is you'll get people getting very patriotic and antsy and saying, oh, well, the Scottish pound is legal tender in England, you have to accept it and all that kind of thing. And actually, there's no obligation on shopkeepers to accept a Scottish pound.
No, of course not.
But it is legal tender. And this is where a lot of people don't actually know what the phrase legal tender actually means.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you're obliged to accept it as a payment thing. What it means is it's an accepted means to pay off a debt. So,
okay.
So if you've got a court case against you and you owe £500 or whatever, then you can pay into court in Scottish pounds, Isle of Man pounds, or English pounds, and that makes it legal tender. Where it doesn't mean you can walk into a local Tesco's and for them to have to accept the Scottish pound note.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is the word legal.
Yeah, most people don't understand what it actually means.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
Yeah.
So if you lose your court case, you can settle it in Scottish pounds, and they have to accept it in that instance.
Correct. So it's fascinating. If you actually go to the Bank of England site, it's actually got a write-up of some of this stuff, and it describes how it is that I think the English pound isn't legal tender in Scotland, but the Scottish pound is legal tender in England, and there's all sorts of weird things. So,
okay, interesting.
But going on from your point about the Isle of Man trying to support Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff, so similar thing happened in the UK a couple of years ago. There was a project which was Royal Mint Token.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant, the gold one.
Yep. So it's excellent. So
I was at a conference in London where they presented it, and I remember saying to somebody next to me, we should make this guy the Chancellor. The guy, he was so clued up. I mean, I was so impressed. Right? I went and spoke to them, and I said to him, so this Royal, what they call it, Royal Mint Gold, I think, RMG. And I said to him, so if I bought this token, can I have some gold? Can I cash it in for gold? And he said, yes. You can go to our building in somewhere in Wales or something, and yeah, we'll give you some gold. And I was like, really? I can take delivery of it? And he said, yes, of course you can. I was like, oh wow. I said, this is a killer product.
Yeah.
I
didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
Go on, Bill.
I think I remember it because it was quite a well, I didn't go to the actual physical meeting and the launch, but I remember seeing some really good content coming through. But I think it's the same one because it was the Royal Mint, and they were talking about, I can't remember the detail. It looked a really exciting project. The trouble is, I think bankers don't like gold. Not really. Certainly some banks don't like gold, yeah, because it undermines the value of their money, their currency. So they're not going to be that overjoyed by having it as a competitor, really, yeah.
Well, the bigger problem is on Sunday, because I know several people who worked on the project. I'm still in touch with a few of them. They've moved on to different things. But the biggest problem was that this was effectively the Royal Mint associating a gold coin in some way with a cryptocurrency and making them interchangeable and everything, which is fantastic. And the project was going really well. They had the technology sorted out. They had all sorts of other things sorted out.
Yeah, I think the CME on board.
Yeah, so yeah. They were doing all the right stuff and everything. And then at some point, I think someone in HM Treasury said, doesn't this get viewed as the government supports cryptocurrency? And they weren't quite ready for that. And so that's where I think it was politically, it was killed off, because it would have been effectively the first government-backed cryptocurrency in the world. And they realized that they just weren't quite right for that. It was one of these unfortunate things that it was a really good little project that grew and grew. And then someone went, hang on, there are political repercussions here.
Now, interesting, I think Australia's got one. I think the Australian Mint or the Perth Mint or something has got one. They've got a gold-backed token.
There's a few that are gold-backed because I think RMG, which is Royal Mint Gold, as opposed to RMT, which is the Royal Mint Token, that there's been a few Bitcoin Golds and all this kind of thing. That there's a few, but none of them are being government supported. And
making me laugh about Bitcoin Gold, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing that would have swung it. That because the
was a Royal Mint. I mean,
yeah,
I wrote a Medium article on it, and I said, I mean, come on, it's the Royal Mint. Who cares?
Yeah.
So does it get any better than that?
It looked good to me at the time. I thought it was quite an impressive piece I saw put together at the time. But there are two more I know about. One's called Kinesis, which I might have heard about. Another one's called Glint. I'm not necessarily sure if they're attached to crypto yet or will be, but they are trying to do something where it becomes money again. You can use it as a minimum exchange, for example. But I don't know how far advanced they really are.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. But yeah, I've always found it funny because I thought it was a great example of things going completely in circles on themselves. Because you had, when you look at what money was originally, you know, cash was effectively representation of some gold in a bank vault somewhere. And we'd gone full circle where cash now no longer is no longer backed by anything physical. And then you're about to have a cryptocurrency that was backed by a physical. And it's like a complete swap around. So fascinating stuff. Yeah. The other Chris, how are things with you at the moment? You still on your learning journey at the moment? He's gone quiet. I've forgotten.
Sorry, I was muted and I couldn't find the button. Sorry, yes, Gary, you were saying?
Yeah, I was just asking how are things going on your crypto journey? Are you still learning and finding things out?
Well, yes. I mean, I'm not terribly into NFTs. I'm finding that very confusing. But I just think the space is. I think crypto is becoming an understandable market now, and I just think that the future of Bitcoin is very strong. So, and if Bitcoin is strong, then everything else will follow suit.
I think you're right, and it's interesting how there are more and more reports. Was it Visa that announced this week that they're going to accept Bitcoin payments through their network or something?
I think so. Yeah.
So it's kind of inevitable that once. I think the turning point was when MicroStrategy announced that they had Bitcoin reserves as part of their hedging strategy. Then it really swung it when Tesla said, we've got 1.5 billion. Then BNY Mellon said they were about to start trading in crypto, I think. And then JP Morgan had already said stuff. So they're all beginning to adopt this stuff without us even noticing at the moment, which is great.
It's the thing that the BlockFi and this putting your crypto in as a loan system is getting back to the way the fiat system is run, which is disappointing.
I think I agree. That was one of the things I found exciting about crypto was that it was non-debt backed. It was all libertarian thinking. And then all of a sudden we've got the ability to collateralize it and issue debt and that kind of thing. But that said, though, that the whole getting interest on your crypto is quite good, particularly when I had 2 letters this week. One was from my bank to say that the interest rate on my deposit account was now, I think, 0% or something. And the other letter was from my bank to say that my overdraft fees would now be 35%.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so what you're saying is that you're not going to pay me anything for me lending you money, but you are going to use my bank account as collateral to lend someone else money, and you're going to make 35% on it. That just doesn't seem very fair. Yeah.
Well, it could well be that you'll be paying them some money to hold your money soon.
Well, that's happened in Germany, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I believe where they've gone negative. Yeah, good point on that. John, you're being quiet this evening.
Enjoying listening, learning.
Have you been doing anything in particular crypto-wise this week or the last few weeks?
No, not especially. I am getting more interested in NFTs. I still haven't quite worked out how something on a blockchain, how that actually links to the digital art to prove the authenticity of that piece of digital art. So what is actually embedded in the digital art to tie it back to the token, or am I completely misunderstanding the connection?
No, not at all, because I've actually been reading the ERC 721 specification, which is the smart contract specification that's being used. Because I'm quickly trying to learn more and more on this kind of stuff right now. And as I understand it, there's kind of 4 layers of this whole thing, or at least 4 layers. The first is that you've got a wallet with your private key. Then your private key gives you access to the smart contract, which is the token. The token has a pointer in it, which is a pointer to where the actual asset is. So it might be like a JPEG or whatever. And that sits on IPFS or something. So you got these 4 things of the wallet with the private key, the smart contract, which references the asset, and the platform that the asset sits on. So at the end of it, you've got a JPEG, for example. But the JPEG,
so there's not actually something embedded in the JPEG.
No, but
a reference number. It's more like a destination URL, but at the end of this URL.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, you will have a hash of that JPEG, and it's that hash that is held on the blockchain to prove that that is the right JPEG. The problem is, though, with a JPEG or any other file, is that if your hash is purely of the content of it, then you could copy that JPEG and the hash of it remains the same. So what I'm looking at the moment is how you can embed additional metadata, like the date and time of the creation of the file, into the hash.
Yeah.
And that will then give us a bit more security on it. And then
Now,
go working through.
May I ask a new question? Why do you use an NFT and not a security token?
Because a security token is fungible in as much as a security token represents an amount, it doesn't represent a specific item.
Okay.
And that's the simple thing. I kind of describe it, money's probably a bad example. Money is considered to be fungible because one £5 note is exchangeable for another £5 note. But it's semi-fungible because a £5 note's also got serial number on it, which is what actually makes it unique. So the thing with an ERC-721 smart contract, which is what the non-fungible token is that it points to a specific unique object as opposed to a value. So the thing a lot of people, even now with crypto, they don't realize is when you own Bitcoin, you don't own a specific Bitcoin or a specific Satoshi. You own an account balance of Bitcoins or sub-amounts or whatever. And they're interchangeable. So does that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, so an NFT is basically like, let's say you put your house as an NFT. It's a unique object.
Exactly right. Yeah. So you think about
you own a brick, then basically, yeah.
What was that?
You own a brick in the house, yeah.
No, because that would be a fractional ownership, which is different again.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking one specific brick as opposed to a brick, yeah.
Yes.
If the brick has got your signature
It's
on
a
it.
unique
It's almost
brick.
like when you sponsor. My mum, so where I grew up, there was an old Victorian pier that fell down, and part of the fundraising was that you could sponsor a plank to rebuild it. So she sponsored a plank and had her name engraved on that plank. So it's almost like that.
Yeah. So you're right. So someone said it right. I think Mark said it. It's that you own a specific brick, and that brick effectively has got a digital identity against it in some way. So that's why where it is different. Whereas with a cryptocurrency or a crypto token, you own an amount of it. With a non-fungible token, you own the specific thing. Yeah. But it's certainly an interesting area. I'm gaining a lot of interest right now. And
I really do think it's quite a growth area. But if you start equating it to particularly things like digital art or collectibles, which are huge industries, if you can authenticate to show that this is the one and only piece of that person's artwork, And I do think there is a real long-term future for it. I'm sure there'll be bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But I think it will be one of those ideas that has longevity to it, as opposed to many other ideas that I'm sure will look good for a couple of months and then fall by the wayside.
Well, I think it's another of these things, and you see it in the crypto space where this has happened with several other hype things, whether it's DeFi or ICOs or whatever, whereby I think the hype and enthusiasm is accelerating faster than the engineering capability. And so this is where I'm discovering already that, you know, people who've bought NFTs who didn't realize actually this means that there's a JPEG somewhere on the planet in effect, but you also need the smart contract and you also need the key. And if any of those components disappear, you've lost that chain of custody. So that's where I'm working on some stuff to explore that. But I think you're right. When digital meets physical, that's going to be interesting. So the real growth at the moment is in digital art, because obviously it's easy enough to stick a JPEG or an MP3 or whatever on a file server and hash it and all that kind of stuff. Well, one of the conversations I've got going at the moment is with an art gallery who've heard about this NFT thing and it sounds very interesting, and they deal in physical art. And so we've got a conversation lined up about, well, how do you put physical art onto an NFT in some way? And from what I've seen so far, there's about 5 different ways of doing it, but it is possible, you know. And if that comes off, it may be that you'll see quite a transformation in the physical art movement towards tokenizing the ownership model of the art. Because the thing that artists love about it is that, you know, if you do a painting at the moment, you sell it, then you get the money from the sale, and then it adds zeros to the value, and they sell it and it adds zeros to the value. The artist never sees any more income from it. Whereas with an NFT, they can configure it that each time it's resold, they get a commission. So it's more like a license fee model.
Gary, you know, you're talking about that. I don't know if anybody on the Zoom call or whatever. I mean, so over summer last year in June, I started playing around with this whole DeFi thing, and there was I'm trying to remember exactly how it came about, but there was a South African, you can hear my accent. There was a South African guy called Andre Crunier who suddenly sort of appeared on the scene. It was quite sort of humorous because his sort of title, not title, but his sort of, you know, he's got under his name, he's got there, I test in production. He's actually not joking, he actually really does. He doesn't sort of test the code first, he just makes it live on the Ethereum network. And once or twice it hasn't worked out so well, but he's quite remarkable because he generally gets it right. Anyway, along the way, there's a point to NFTs behind this. First of all, he introduced an insurance product using NFTs, which was quite clever, because effectively an NFT is a deed, if you like. So it's quite clever. But there was a character called Blue Kirby, and a Kirby is I think it's a Japanese anime character. It looks like a little ball with a big mouth, and it's pink normally, but this character was blue, so hence Blue Kirby. And he would promote a lot of the stuff that Andre was doing. We don't know, I think it's a Chinese guy who was doing it, but he was very humorous. He was always on Twitter, and some of the things he would say were actually quite kind of funny. And then at one point so Andre introduced a token called YFI, YFI. I got to be honest, I missed out on this. I was quite annoyed. But they're only 31,000 or something, and they're now $32,000 a coin. So I was a little bit annoyed because they were quite easy to get. But I was too busy having another fight on my computer, so I wasn't concentrating on it. But anyway, so Blue Kirby sort of disappeared, and just before he disappeared, he created an NFT which sort of, it looked like sort of samurai, sort of like a samurai face of neon and sort of things turning like this. And then he disappeared, just like boom. And then this NFT sort of was sitting there, and everyone was like, oh, you've all been rigged and it's worthless. And it turned out that you could take this NFT later on and you could exchange it for something called a SEEN token, SEEN. So I had this NFT because I find this stuff quite humorous, even if it costs me money. I mean, I just whatever. Sometimes I just think it's quite funny. And I exchanged it for these SEEN tokens, and it turns out that it's called SEEN.house. I put it up in the chat. They've got a website, and which is the relevance to what you were saying. They're an art gallery or an auction house in New York. So anyway, my SEEN tokens are now, I think, worth $20,000. I mean, so there you go. Don't ask me, but as I said, a bit humorous to me, to be honest. And what they do is they sell physical art. And somehow, I'm not sure of the details, but I mean, they should explain it on the website. But it's like a premium sort of project. So one of the things they did was that they sold you a figurine of a blue Kirby, and he's got like a little magnetic crown, little gold crown you can put on his head. And so they've got artworks, and the artworks will be, say, paint and a mixture. They had one the other day, was made out of Lego. And so they auction these things. They auction them for Ether. And then they send it to you. They send you the actual physical thing. And it comes in a beautiful box. It really looks stunning. And they show you, they give you the dimensions of the art, and so somewhere on the art or in the art or something, there's a QR code, and somehow that QR code is linked to your Ethereum address. Okay. And so they give you an NFT along with the art. So effectively the NFT proves that is the real artwork, if you see what I'm trying to say. That is the one that you bought, as in like kind of, so it kind of timestamps it, and I'm not quite sure how they link it, but it's linked, which I thought was quite a novel idea. And then the token seems to have run in price because they're going to give you a percentage of the turnover of what they auction for being a token holder. So I think at the moment, hang on, let me go and look at the website.
I just took a look. It says they've had 33 lots.
Yes, they've only had 33 lots. You can see the SEEN token's $14. It got to about $20.
Okay.
So now, look, a lot of the stuff that they've auctioned, I just don't like, to be honest. So if you look there, they've got enthusiastic consent. That's made out of Lego. And you can see there were 3 of 3. And if you go if you load more, you can see the first ones. They've got a painting of, it's a painting of, I think, Napoleon on a horse, and the horse is rearing. And they've changed the head to Andre Crenier, and then blue Kirby's on the back of the horse. This little, you have to go quite a bit. It was the first or second lot.
Okay. Well, I think you're right. It's interesting how the art.
Yeah, they were bidding 13 and 20 Ether.
Yeah.
So the first lot is called To the Moon. Yeah, it's like a card. And it's this horse with Andre's face and blue Kirby's on the back of the back of the horse, and it's 18.76 Ether, which I was like just gobsmacked. I was like, "Choo." So it's a lot of money for. I didn't think it was a particularly good piece of art, but what do I know?
That's the thing about art. The thing I'm finding interesting as well, and this hasn't happened yet, but I suspect it will do, is that at the moment it happens to be art that has picked this up as a way of effectively having a certificate of ownership in a latter-day way. But it can be applied to many, many other things. And there's another smart contract standard that's come out, which is the ERC 1155, which is tailored towards financial services. So all of a sudden, that might actually turn into being a 21st century share certificate, in effect, or as someone mentioned earlier on, effectively a deed, whereby you're representing an actual physical financial asset in some way with a tokenized version of the ownership of it.
Yes.
So, you know, that could really explode, because then you could have it, whereas at the moment people have been using ERC20 smart contracts for ICOs and that kind of thing, which is general fundraising. Well, this could actually be for share certificates, so specific ones in some way. That could be quite transformational. So I think, whilst the crypto art's getting really enthusiastic and it's a new space in that, I think any sort of physical item, there's the potential to use this to track. And you look at the likes of Everledger, who were a UK-based blockchain platform who tracked and traced diamonds. And they've got a successful business now about tracking diamond ownership around the world. And then they've extended that to include fine art, fine wine. I think they're doing vehicle registrations or something. And they've built all this on their own platform. Well, all of a sudden, all of that can be done just using a fully available smart contract. So I think there's going to be some big growth in that space.
It's interesting, because I would have thought that could have moved by now, really, because it seems the logical way forward. I mean, I've had a project which you know about, and there's other projects I believe in the pipeline which might come on and do similar things. I'm not always convinced that, you know, ERC23 is the best blockchain model, yeah, because I think we need a more custom-based, you know, fully switched on blockchain solution that addresses that particular part of the market, rather than just being another ERC derivative, yeah. Because it's getting a bit boring always hearing about smart contracts, isn't it? But it's interesting to say that, because I think I've got some projects I can't really talk to us about, but it looks like they might be going down that route, and possibly with diamonds as well, which is why it made me smile.
Yeah. Well, diamonds is a funny one, because it's worth checking out everledger.io, because I've known Leanne Kemp, who's the CEO, almost since they started. It actually spun out from, they did a hackathon one weekend, and it was a crypto hackathon or a blockchain hackathon. And it just happened that Leanne is somebody who's got a background in diamonds. And so she knew all about the processes, about, you know, the Kimberley process. She knew about the tracking and all that kind of thing. And they just came up with this clever idea of building a cryptographic hash of a physical diamond by looking at the various facets and assets of it, or the attributes of it, putting that onto a blockchain and then tracking and tracing it from there. And I always describe it as the poster child of blockchain, because people can quite easily grasp that idea of, okay, so you've got this physical thing, you look at how many edges there are, how it lets light through, all that kind of thing. You then do a cryptographic hash of that, what is effectively a unique signature, and then you put that hash on blockchain. So you've now got digital representation of something physical, and every time it changes ownership, you add another record on a blockchain. So you've now got the lineage, the auditability, and people go, oh yeah, I get that. I understand that now. Then you go, right, we'll take that model and now use it for fine art. Okay, yeah, I get that. And now use it for fine wine, and now use it for cars and so on. And it's a wonderfully simple example of how you can use a distributed ledger with the blockchain. That's good. Mark, wants to just quickly bring you in for a few minutes, because we were chatting the other day about tokens of interest or cryptocurrencies of interest.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything on your radar at the moment?
Currently at the moment, I've been looking into PundiX. They are a project where they are trying to do kind of crypto payments out across Asia, and to have like point of sale terminals. So that's looking quite interesting. Not to shill it or anything like that, but it does look like it's got some great potential, in my humble opinion. But do your own research.
As I always say on this group, you know, this is educational. It's not financial, taxation, legal, or medical advice.
But they have a term in DeFi. They call it ape. you ape into
Oh
something.
yeah, I
So
see.
you just like copy, you know, whatever he's doing, just do it. Just like, never mind.
I
Just like,
didn't know that.
if Elon bought it, buy it.
Was that the ape analogy used with the what's it called, the stock, the shorts of it's a Reddit, the Reddit.
The GameStop
GameStop.
story.
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
They have I saw an image they posted, which is an ape superimposed on Wall Street. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But probably where they got it from. Yeah. It's probably a bit nasty to apes, to be honest. But anyway.
Because that was the whole Wall Street bets and GameStop, wasn't it? About how
Yeah, that's right.
the
whole diamond hands and.
for those who don't know, what it basically was I think there was a Reddit thread. So Reddit's a discussion board where a group of people noticed that a Wall Street hedge fund was shorting a particular stock. And they do that all the time. You know, they look at a company that's not doing very well. They put in some shorts. So basically they offer to buy a share at a future price at a lower price, knowing it's going to go even lower, which is the point at which they then buy it to then sell it to the person they'd shorted it to. And some techie people spotted this was going on with GameStop, who are like the equivalent of Game over here, I guess, of like a shop into gaming, and started buying the stock up. And the problem with that is that the hedge fund was waiting for the stock to collapse in price, and it did the opposite, which meant...
But it's even better because they managed to short 140% of the shares.
Okay.
So it was technically impossible to buy them back. Right. So the guy behind GameStop, I think his name may have been Diamond Hands, or it was something ruder. But he had to, I mean, so he figured out a strategy. It was very clever. He got people to buy call options. So they literally, I mean, it was impossible for that whole thing to resolve itself. I mean, the price basically had to go to infinity because, I mean, they had sold more shares than were in existence. So, you know, like anyone who had them just like, well, you know, I want $1 million per share. Otherwise, I'm not going to give them to you. So the price just went, I think it went from $40 to $800 or something, or $400. It went up 10 or 20 times.
I can't remember all of it. All I remember, there's a really good article, Fred, on Wall Street on Parade. Yeah. And I do say that one of the main protagonists in that is actually already in jail. He was in jail when he was actually doing what he was doing.
Because I've seen people mention this. They were like, how the hell was he trading from jail?
Yeah, I don't understand it.
They probably had a phone or something. But now, so that they were trading through Robinhood, right?
Yeah.
This like no commission broker, which was really weird. I mean, I thought this was like, if you go Google it, you'll see. So they had to appear in front of Congress because they had a whole, you know, investigation. And this guy from Wall Street Bets appears, and he looks exactly the same as the CEO of Robinhood. I mean, they look like twins.
A guy called
I was
Roaring
looking at
Kitty.
them going, this is a joke. I mean, they're the same person. I was like, and actually they're two different separate people. They just happen to look alike. Sorry, John.
It's the guy behind it was a guy called Roaring Kitty. That was his Twitter name, Roaring Kitty, and he started the Zoom call with Congress by saying, what was that? I am not a cat, or something.
Okay.
There was a court hearing where I think it was a prosecutor or someone. His Zoom call or Zoom image got stuck on a picture of a cat. So that was all the thing at that moment. So
I remember it now. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
So the Roaring Kitty guy started this Congress hearing, introducing himself by "I am not a cat."
Brilliant.
But yeah, he did look very much like the guy from Robin Hood. Because I don't know what the name for it is. I can't think of it. But Robin Hood, something about sort of frontline orders or something into one of the major brokerages who basically get a head start on the orders that are coming through, and they were connected to one of the major companies that was getting shorted badly, having its position affected. And so basically, it seems like behind the scenes, Robinhood got told to stop allowing orders to be processed for GameStop because Robinhood's backers were being hit for six because of what was going on.
I think that's the thing as well. This kind of brings it home that was not a crypto thing.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
But there was clearly market manipulation going on. As you say, it looked like there was some front running going on with the book, all completely dubious. But it was the people on Wall Street who got fried for a change, as opposed to them doing the frying. And they got very upset about how dreadful this was. But it kind of goes on all the time, just we don't usually notice it. And it's not crypto. But crypto is where we keep being told that that's where all this bad stuff happens. So anyway, folks, I'm going to have to close it off there because we've had our
Just quickly before, I mean, okay, I just put a link to what the guy from the guy from GameStop.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a picture of what he looks like, and now I'm trying to find a picture of the GameStop, not GameStop, Robinhood CEO. Yeah, okay, I found it. Okay, now you tell me what's going on here, because I'm going to just upload this link, and you just look at those two pictures. These two guys are dead ringers for each other. It's the weirdest thing. Just you go click on those two links, and you tell me they're like the same person. It's like, I don't know. We're living in a simulation. That's what I have to say.
Don, it was Brock Pierce, by the way.
Huh?
Brock Pierce was the...
Brock Pierce, yes,
yeah.
yes, thank you. That's the name, yes. Thank you, that's it, that's right. That was the guy. Yeah, he was here on the island and everyone met him and said he was quite a nice guy.
He's an interesting guy. I met him at a conference 2 years ago. And yeah, it was bizarre because he was on the panel with Roger Ver, Tony Vase, Craig Wright, The Economist, who's always anti-crypto.
Nero Rubini.
Yeah, he wasn't happy, was he?
The thing that summed it up for me for that conference was that Brock Pierce was probably the sanest person. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to close it off on that because we're over on our time, but thank you for coming along.
Yeah, it was nice to chat to some people other than from people in my house.
Well, but be safe. Hopefully speak to you again next week. But be safe and go and wash your hands now.
Thanks a lot, Gary.
Bye,
Gary.
Bye. Have a nice week.